order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let the record show that all board members are present, and we'll move on to the showcase of the summer rec and enrichment programs.
All right, you're up.
And welcome. I've never done this before.
Yeah, well, this is awesome. If you want to introduce yourself to everyone, for anyone who might not know who you are. And
Okay, well, I do that in my presentation,
Okay.
so.
all right, well then you
Am I good
go.
to just start? Okay,
Yes.
perfect. Sounds good. And then how do I tell Emily to move?
Sure. Emily will hang
When I
with
say
you.
next slide?
Sure.
Okay. All right, so welcome, or thank you for having me, I should say. My name is Kayla Marion, and I am here to talk to you all about our summer recreation, enrichment, and Tiger Club programs for this summer. Next slide. So my name is Kayla Marion, and for those of you who don't know me and who I haven't had the pleasure of meeting, I am the community ed coordinator, and I started last August, so I'm coming up on a year in Princeton. Next slide. And the programs that I oversee in community ed are our recreation, enrichment, and Tiger Club programs. We also have our ECFE and preschool programs, which Stephanie Mindorf oversees. Next slide. So before I jump into each of the different programs, I wanted to give you a few data points because we all love data and seeing the growth of programs. So this first slide shows you the number of course sections offered. So I broke it down by 4 different areas: recreation, aquatics, enrichment, and driver's ed. Of course, aquatics goes into enrichment, and aquatics goes into recreation, and driver's ed goes into enrichment. But because there are different budget lines and things like that, it's nice to also see the growth of aquatics and driver's ed specifically as well. So you can see from last summer to this summer alone, we've grown, especially in our enrichment area, which is really exciting for me. The first thing, or one of the first questions that I asked was, where is all of our enrichment programs? Where's our STEM? We had some robotics and things like that in the fall in school year, but not a lot going on in the summer. So that was one area of focus that I really wanted to grow and be able to offer more this summer. Next slide. And so another bar graph, same areas, is this time for a total number of registrations as of last week. So because of course we're still in summer programming and we have a couple more weeks to go, but as of last week, these are our growth from last summer to this summer. So our recreation program growing almost 400 enrollments, but also all of the other areas of aquatics, enrichment, driver's ed, everything's growing, which is really exciting and heartening to see. Being that's my first year here. Next slide, please.
Just a quick question.
Oh, yeah.
The board's aware that we went out and we did a paper booklet or manual this spring that I don't know that we had done for a year or two. Did you guys think that was well received by the public?
Yes, yep, so a lot of people really enjoyed our catalog production. We did the printed version, and one thing that we did was go out to different businesses and offer them a stack of catalogs, because one day we ended up with about 500 extra catalogs, and we said, why do we have so many extras? And they weren't delivered properly to some of the areas. So we just decided to go out and really help push some of those programs, which people really enjoyed, because then as you're walking into a grocery store or wherever, then you can say, hey, look, that's a catalog, I didn't know that. And it really just helps grow that community and school connection.
Thank you.
So diving into the programs, the first one, our recreation programs. These are the same bar graphs as before, just condensed, so you can easily see for the recreation programs. A few new additions this summer were our cheer camps, flag football camps, pickleball lessons, which were for adults as well, but we had some youth enrollments for that, so I wanted to highlight that. And then a track and field day camp, which I'm actually running this Friday because we don't have Tiger Club. So I wanted to be able to offer a few different opportunities for kids and families who have to work that day. Next slide. So I won't go through the whole list, but this is what we have offered for different areas of recreation. You've got your sports and you've got your fitness and your solo things as well. So it's really exciting. We have a pretty well-rounded program. We have had a few requests for lacrosse and some other sports, but it's a matter of finding instructors, so that's always our hardest challenge here. But overall, we have a pretty well-rounded recreation program. Next slide. One fun thing is we also are always offer feedback evaluation forms to the community because we want to know what they like, what they don't like about our programs. So I just picked one for basically every grade that we offer. So I won't read it verbatim, but just highlighting some different points. Our pre-K through grade 2 Tiger basketball camp. Great program and coach. I've seen my daughter's confidence grow. Her performance has increased. Our cheer clinics, my daughter had so much fun. She enjoyed learning. Gave a big shout out to our coaches, Corey and Jamie, for making modifications to the camp in regards to accessibility and inclusivity. Our North Metro Track and Field League, which we actually had to cancel last year, that was up and running this year, which was exciting. We had a lot of student athletes that helped in that camp, so that was what they highlighted. The student helpers were really nice and helped me learn. And then a high school tennis, which we've had from the Dorr family for many, many years. You learn important things. Every year I do this camp, I improve so much and have such a fun time with my friends. You get to go outside and get good exercise in. Overall, positive feedback for our rec programs this summer, which is very exciting and heartening. And when people return, that's always really exciting because then we know we have solid programming to offer for our youth. Next slide, please. And then one thing I wanted to highlight was student-led camps. So we have a lot of recreation programs where students are assisting coaches and everything, but these three specific camps were solely student-led by recent graduates and then current high school students as well. So one new one was our flag football camps led by 2023 graduate Cooper. And then we have our Little Boot Soccer led by Noah, which has been around for the past few years. And then lastly, Sandlot Baseball by Nico. He actually was an assistant a few years back when we had the program, but we decided to bring it back and he said, yeah, I'd love to take this on, this is great. So it's really, really cool to see that youth-to-youth connection, specifically in the area of leadership for youth. That's always a very important role for me, is to be able to help grow them in their leadership skills. And we got all positive feedback for these programs too. Of course, there's always it's a little nerve-wracking because you don't know how much leadership they can offer, because they're still kids themselves, but they've really stepped up and been able to offer some really cool camps this summer. So that's an area where I hope to grow in the future too, is focusing more with youth, leading all of our different camps and classes too, and getting support from adults. But I want them to be the face of our programs as much as possible. Next slide. Any questions before I move on to enrichment? All right. So then enrichment, this is the same bar graph again as before, just condensed. So again, this was a very important area for me to grow, and I think we've succeeded in being able to offer a lot for our youth and our community, which is really exciting. A few new additions this summer compared to last summer is we had art camps, we had farm camps, which I'll talk a little bit about, and then Friday STEM camps. Generally, we've never offered Friday camps. But again, there's a lot of missed opportunities for families that day who just want to have a day camp here and there. The weekdays, Monday through Thursday, get to be really hard for families with work flexibility. But generally, a lot of people have a lot more flexibility on Fridays where they can drop their kid off for 5-6 hours. Next slide. So again, won't list all of them, but here are the different areas of enrichment programs, everything from your art and drama camps to robotics and horse camps. So a lot of different offerings that we've been able to have this summer, which we still have a lot of opportunity to grow here, but I think it was a really good start for this summer. Next slide. One fun thing I thought would be to pull our top 3 enrichment camps based off of the number of enrollments. One, because the first one was our Down on the Farm series, which is a family-oriented one for families of birth through grade 3. We had 173 participants enrolled so far. We have a couple more this in August still, but this was a community partnership where we just reached out to local farms and said, hey, we would love to partner with you to offer something for our kids and our families. They loved the idea, and so this is what we were able to offer, and it's been a huge hit. And we have one of our ECFE teachers actually leading it and just being on site to support the families each day. Our next one is Drama Camp. Of course, this has been around for a long time. It's always one of our most popular programs. They did The Little Mermaid Junior this summer, which was really, really fun. I got to go see the show and watch them perform, and that was a great time. And then our last one, Pioneer School, where we partner with the Historical Society, also has been around for quite a while, but always one of the favorite camps for everybody. Next slide. All right, and then finally, the last program that I oversee is Tiger Club. So the data here is just the number of contracts that we've had from last year compared to this year. So our Tiger Club program during the summer is also increasing. We've gotten a little over 30 extra contracts this summer. We're housed in primary right now, and then Friday we're moving to intermediate for the rest of the summer so they can continue doing cleaning. Our Tiger Club program during the summer is for incoming pre-K through grade 6. And then during the school year, it's just our pre-K through grade 5. And then we have our early risers program for the middle school. New this summer is our AmeriCorps members. I oversee several members who help out in both our recreation and enrichment and Tiger Club programs. And we've had AmeriCorps volunteers before in the summer programmings, but what's new there is that they actually were able to really just focus on just Tiger Club, and then they help support Tiger Academy as well. But one thing I wanted them to really focus on is giving back to the kids as much as they can by leading different presentations and doing different projects like art projects or STEM projects. And then they also are helping with supplemental reading to help support families in that need as well. And then a fun thing is we're doing an end of summer party, which I'll talk about shortly as well. Next slide. So it's been a fun-filled summer, lots of great adventures and dress-up days and everything else. We have themed weeks, we have presentations, we have field trips, we have different bike outings, all of the different things that we can try to keep kids engaged and not too bored out of their minds. Next slide. So our themed weeks, these are all of the ones that we had for this summer. So we do 2 weeks at a time, except for the Stars and Stripes where we just had it during our 4th of July week. But we have a lot of different activities and projects or surrounding these, whether it's art projects or sidewalk chalk, or maybe they're building a fort for camp or something like that. So there's just a lot of different opportunities that we try to provide the kids during these themed weeks. Next slide. Talking about the presentations and performances, we've had 3 big ones this summer. Again, our AmeriCorps members helped present. One thing that we struggled a little bit with is just some bullying things, and that's obviously not okay. And so I talked to our AmeriCorps members and said, hey, I would like you to step up, take a leadership role in providing presentations regarding acceptance, inclusion, and talking about different cultures. And so they took that to heart. They loved it, and they're like, yes, we'd love to support. So we were able to have presentations on all of those different things, which was really cool. And I feel like that really sunk in for the kids too, and understanding the importance of just being kind to everyone. I did a presentation on Germany during our culture around the world themed weeks. I spent a lot of time in Germany, so I just wanted to talk to them about engineering and have them guess different inventions that came from Germany and how that helped kind of where we're at with medicine and automobiles and all that different stuff. And then Skeeter the Clown came a few weeks back, thanks to the Princeton Lions, and just did a cute little presentations, was able to bring up some of the kiddos to try to balance a feather on their hand and their nose, and it was a really great time. The kids absolutely loved it, and they were able to go to see the circus come to life as they popped open the tent and all of this other stuff. So that was last week, and they really loved being able to do that. They rode their bikes out, and they had a really good time. Next slide. And then lastly, our field trips. So the ones that we've done so far in June and July, we went to Como, Bunker Beach, Old Log Theater, and Three Rivers. And then a new one this year that we want to try was Minnehaha Falls, because we had a lot of kids who'd said, I've never seen a waterfall before. So we wanted to provide them with that opportunity to see it. Granted, it wasn't the most exciting waterfall because of the drought, but it was still a waterfall. So we were happy to have that. So they have a lot of fun with these field trips. The Bunker Beach and the water ones are always the highlight of the trips for sure, but everyone's a great one. Next slide. And then our upcoming celebrations and field trips for August. We've got Daycare Day at the fair next week, Cascade Bay, which is another water park, and then our end of summer party, which will be our last week on the 23rd of August. And that is really just a big thank you to our families for coming in and supporting us and choosing us as their childcare provider. So you're all more than welcome to come. That's noon to 4 p.m. at Intermediate. They'll be out in the fields if it's really nice, but we'll have the ice cream truck and pizza barns coming in. So it'll be a really fun time, and I can definitely send you more information as we find out, but it'd be fun for you all to come and just see what that's all about.
What day is that again?
The 23rd of August.
What time did you say?
So noon to 4 p.m. So I'm happy to send, I'll send out some information and invite for all of you too. So, but it'd be fun to have you there just to come check out. I'm hoping to do a donation drive too for the community as their admission. So bring a food item and that'll be their admission. So just to give back to the community as much as possible. So, all right, next slide. I think that was the last one. Yes, so any questions at all for me?
I would like to say that both my children have loved the junior basketball camp. Has been like a very big, what do you mean it's over, like hit at our house. So.
We will have it again in the winter or fall. We're working on it.
And also having the kids teaching the kids, like I just love that so much. And we have to go to the 9th grade basketball games this all last year because of the junior Tiger basketball, like helpers, and we'll be there again this year. So it does really make a difference for the kids.
Yeah.
And I have another volunteer for you for free.
Perfect, thank you. We'll touch base.
Great presentation. Looks like
Yes.
you're bringing everything in the right direction.
Thank you.
Very nice.
We're trying our best. So we got a lot to go, but we're excited for the next upcoming year. So
Is
busy
there-
working on the fall catalog right now.
Was there still a wait list for the Summer Tiger Club, or is that just during the school?
Just during the school, so we've come up with a plan to try to make it work for Tiger Club, and we're staying at primary for right now. I worked with Sarah on finding space to make it work, and then we'll reconvene as the weather gets bad, and hopefully we won't have to move to intermediate. It creates a lot of logistics and complications if staff are out sick and needing to combine rooms and doing all these different things. So we want to make sure we have a really solid program, as we've had a lot of transitions too with staffing the past year for that too. But
I think that at some point in time, we're gonna have to expand Tiger Club
Yep.
Into the intermediate school. The major barrier there is, that's an after-school kind of program, so you need to have a time for the kids to blow off some steam and run and play and those kinds of things. And if we move Tiger Club to the intermediate school, we'll need to use the gymnasium for part of the time, especially in the wintertime, which then will impact lots of our rentals, because we have some major programs that are in that gymnasium space. And that kind of leads it to the growing issue we have with gym space issues in the district.
Yep, and it also competes with our rec and enrichment program. We have a lot offered after school, and we're gonna have a great partnerships, which I'm excited to have you all see. But that's another thing too, is if we move over to intermediate, then where do we put all of these after school programs as well? So we want them to complement each other, not compete against each other. So we're trying to figure out all those logistics too on how we can give kids just all the opportunities without going crazy.
The one thing that's been really noticeable for me is the very active advisory group that Community Ed has this year. I know we have a couple board members that sit on that. Any thoughts from that? You had an opportunity, Melissa, to say a couple things. Don, anything from your perspective, being on the board member that represents the board on the advisory group?
Probably what I've seen this year is there's actually more community members that have stepped up to being on that board. And I think Brian has done some different things too with bringing policies, and we're reviewing a lot of different things there. So I think they feel like they're more part of the group versus just meeting and kind of what does your group do, or that they're actually having some input on policies and different items that he brings forward, so that's a good thing.
Yeah, I'm super pleased with the progress that we've made, and certainly we're not satisfied as we're driven to continue to get, grow and offer more opportunities to the public. I think I've mentioned this to the board in the past is, the budget is under its own umbrella, community ed. So, the message I've sent them is if we grow the revenue, then that would, potentially offer the opportunity to add more expenses. And we are, when we compare ourselves to other like-sized districts, we're pretty slim with our staff. And that's kind of a business where you have to have people to get the programs going. So, hopefully we'll continue to grow and we'll be able to add some much needed staff to the department for sure. Awesome.
All right, well, thank you all very much. Appreciate the time.
Thank you. Thank you. And don't think you need to stay all meeting, but you're welcome to if you
I would
want
love to, but I gotta go eat. I'm really hungry. I've been here since 7 this morning, so. So, all right, thank you all. Have a good night.
Thank you.
So we'll move on. There are no citizens' comments, and we'll move on to board member committee reports, starting with Dawn.
No report.
Eric,
I have nothing to report.
Chad,
The agenda planning this week, and that's it.
I had agenda planning, and then we just had a public engagement meeting. I want to remind you again that the MREA conference in November, that the early bird sign up is the 15th of August, so we get a reduction if there's 3 of us, and I think Don and I are pretty close to saying we're going to go. If we can get a 3rd person, that would be good. So we just got to get that done before the middle of the month. And Eric?
Nothing to report.
Deb?
I attended the public engagement.
And Melissa?
Public engagement, and just as like a program that I'm involved in through our district, we found out that our Amity student that we're hosting is coming at the end of August on the 25th, so I thought I'd share that. It's pretty exciting.
Yeah, that's good.
Mm-hmm.
There is no student council report and superintendent report.
Well, speaking of the student council report or our student board member, as you can recall, we did have a goal to make that more of an important role in our district. One thing that you should be aware of is we're trying to organize a special training for our 2 new board members, student board members, to participate in, and it's a new first year they're doing it. And I think it's actually being put on by the National School Boards Association. It's going to be more virtual, but we do have interest. We're also we'd like to see if we can have a school board member be a mentor to the students, similar to what we have for our new school board members that are come on board. You're assigned a mentor. So maybe Sue will follow up as board chair in an email, or if you're be interested in that, I don't know how you'd like to handle that, but if we do have a mentor for the student board members, it'd be nice to see them participate in the training with the students, if it works. We're coming off of the month of July. The way it should work in schools, it should be one of your more quiet months. And it has been, trying to get people out on doing their vacations and just get rejuvenated a little bit. So that is over. So things are really getting cranked up. And we're excited to bring all of our admin back for our big kickoff meeting of the year next Tuesday. So I'll be planning that meeting. Typically that's a long marathon day, just to make sure that have all our ducks in a row. I'm excited for this. I think Thursday I'm spending pretty much my whole day with the high school new administration, just to be able to I've met with them a few times, but this will be a time for me to really, set the tone in terms of expectations and the direction that we want to move at the high school. Lots of projects going on. It seems like all of the projects, there's been some level of hiccups on, but we're seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. It's been a little bit slow going at the high school parking lot, but if you go over in that direction now, you'll see the curb and gutter kind of getting placed in. So there's some last, there'll be a lot of work happening, and we will be hopefully finishing that project right before we're starting. Lots of people coming to the high school.
What have the hiccups been?
Some gas lines that were supposed to be in other spots.
Yeah, the gas.
By
line was
the
missed.
drawings, they were in one spot, but they weren't in that spot, and then, so there was that. I think we uncovered
Did they hit?
No, they didn't hit it, it just needs to be moved, and there's a whole process to that.
Yeah,
You just
and
don't
then
move the
there
gas.
was a structure, there was a foundation of a structure that had been there that nobody knew about, that slowed us up a little bit as well. And I think the piece that's being shared with me is that every time we do any change, or, you have to have people come out and inspect the work, and give the go-ahead to keep moving forward. So sometimes we're at the mercy of that. The bathrooms, the private restrooms at the high school, that's moving along. We did get slowed up a little bit by getting our approvals from the Department of Labor.
Well, that would be,
I don't know.
the plumbing plan.
I had to call up to the State Department to get that, expedite that process. So anyways, that work's moving forward. The tennis courts, if you head out to the middle school, they're coming along. All the fencing's getting put up, all of the concrete's laid. I would imagine the final tennis surface will be the last thing that comes in.
Yep, that's the last thing, and that's going pretty well.
Yeah. We're getting some final bids on the parking lot by the baseball, softball fields by the middle school as well. So, lots of work happening. Michelle at the last meeting spent a lot of time going through that list of projects and the long-term facility maintenance plan that we have as well. I want you to know I've had a couple meetings with the city in the last week or so. One is on this parking lot across the street here, and working with some of the other churches around that area on a proposal that we can give to the city. And it would really be us purchasing a portion of that for $1. But we would be working with the other churches to partner in the snow removal component, which my proposal to them is that we would take care of that and invoice them for whatever portion of the parking lot that they were responsible for. So we can maintain that. Michelle and I also met with the city regarding the acreage that we have near the middle school and our desire to potentially sell that to a developer. And we needed to share with them the barriers that are being communicated to us from the developers. And we were able to broker a meeting with the city and multiple developers to discuss ways that they can work together to remove some of those barriers, so there could be a potential project that can happen. And I think that meeting is getting set up for like next week. So that's moving along as well. I will have Wold here to present to the board next meeting on potential CTE project at the high school, and we'll have to get numbers from Ellers on terms of potential tax impact of what they present to us. Our back to school communications are all set and planned to go out on August 10th. We are very intentional to make sure that every building sends out the communication to family and the team members on the same day. And we even try and do it within the same couple of hours. So we don't have the whole, did you get your stuff? No, I didn't get my stuff. Why did you get yourself? And I didn't get my stuff. And it's all electronic, and it's paperless. So that will all be coming out soon. And I think I'll just end with letting you know that we have sat down with the teachers for negotiations 2 times. And we will be setting a time either next meeting or the following meeting to go into closed session to share with the board the progress that has been made around that. And at this point, that is the only group that we started negotiating with. However, we will need to have some discussions about starting with the other groups sooner than later. So that's all I have, unless you have any questions of me.
Question on the parking lot out here.
Mhm.
I thought, I read in the newspaper that Howard Homes was buying the parking lot for $1. Or was that just a proposal?
Yeah, the Howard Homes piece, and from what I understand, okay, is that they're pulling their proposal.
Oh, okay.
I think it was after the last meeting.
Yeah, but I mean, ultimately, I've had 2 meetings. One was a big meeting with, it was maybe 20-some people, and it was with the city, and there was lots of spirited discussions that happened there. And then at the end of that, it was decided that we would have a second meeting that would be with myself and Michelle and Keith and just the churches without the city. And then we would kind of come up with what our proposal would be together, and we would bring that to the city. That meeting with the city is next week. And we think we have a great idea, but of course, everything is contingent on what the city council decides. I mean, they own the parking lot at this point, so I don't have a crystal ball to know what they'll accept or not accept.
All right, are there other questions for Ben?
So what you're saying is we would bill the churches for snow removal?
We would invoice them, yes. Yep.
And are they guaranteeing payment or?
Well, that was my understanding.
Well, I'm just wondering, it doesn't always work that way.
The alternative of that would be, okay, because we would own like our little 30 spaces.
Okay.
And then the church, the UCC, they already own that, right? So that's theirs already. And then I believe then there's another church. What's that?
Methodist Church.
They were part of the discussion, and then there's the Trinity would be purchasing part of that. So obviously we have the infrastructure and the ability to do that, and we can easily invoice them. If that were not to work out, then I suppose we would just take care of our little corner and not worry about anybody else. So that's.
So you're doing a split, so everyone would own the section, you would actually split it all out?
Everyone would own, and we would also work with the title company, right? And what it would be our understanding that there would be a secondary entity that would help pay for that, doing the title work, right? So I don't believe we would even be charged for that. And it's also my understanding that it would be a fairly easy thing because it's already kind of split out perfectly on the plat, the existing plat. So it's not like they would have to do any kind of extra survey work. And it would be just a pretty easy thing to do. Hey, I tell you what.
I still don't understand the whole,
They don't want to pay for the snow removal.
I know, but, so they sell it to somebody and then like a private company or, what, do they close the public parking lot or charge people to park there? Or, what was the big rub there? When they were talking about Howard Homes and Erickson's buying those parking lots.
I don't want to speak for the city, I can speculate. It's my understanding that the city, to maintain those parking lots, it costs money, right? Obviously, snow removal costs money, restriping it, any kind of maintenance associated with it costs money. There's some limitations by, that the city has to do any kind of towing, where when people park there for a long period of time, where if it was owned by a private entity, us or the churches, we would have the ability to tow if need be. That would be helpful. I think that,
But I understand where the city's coming from. I don't understand where, like the food shelf, you know, would they not be allowed to park there if?
well, there's two different parking lots, okay? I believe that our parking lot that we have an interest in is the lesser of the controversial ones. There's not a whole lot of, there's not a bunch of businesses. It's basically us and some churches.
Yeah.
And, I think that we all feel like, the churches can use our parking, our little sliver on the weekends for church. I mean, we need it for our employees for work, right? Pretty much. And then people that come to meetings for their children or Tiger Club drop off and pick up and those kinds of things. So obviously, we just need ours during business hours, Monday through Friday, mostly during the school year, which of course, the churches need theirs on Saturdays and Sundays. So I guess my message to them is, hey, feel free to park in our spots. And their message to us is, feel free to park in our spots. If you have a big event going on here, they're not, but again, I suppose that could all blow up if people weren't gonna get along with each other. I have no reason to believe that between the school and a few churches that we can't easily just work together on this.
But you're not working on that other one by the food shelf, that's somebody else's
No,
problem.
we have zero interest and we have not paid attention to anything associated with that, and I think there's way more complications with that. You're talking about businesses and places for
Smaller too.
people to
There's
park.
apartments up there. in
There's
there.
apartments, yeah.
Yeah,
Chamber park there.
Yeah, she did.
Yeah.
Sure. All right, anything else? All right then, we'll move on to number 7, to approve the agenda. I will entertain a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
So moved.
Motion made by Don, is there a second?
A second.
Second by Melissa, is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carries. We will discuss and act on previous board minutes from 7/18. Is there someone to make a motion?
One second.
Motion by Melissa, second by Chad, is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carries. We'll move on to approve the consent agenda as presented. I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Motion made by Deb, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Chad, is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carries. We'll move on to the number 10, the information part of our meeting, and that's a review of the board goals. And those are listed in the attachment, and I'm looking for, is there input or additions, or as to we thought we should look at these now, if we move into the school year, if there are changes or additions that you would like to see. We kind of feel like we've been working on these things, and so I'll just open it up for discussion.
you might feel like we've just looked at these because we kind of sort of did. We were late getting our new goal set last school year, and we didn't finalize these until mid-year. But we just thought to get us back on track, right, we should review these in the summer so that we could at least start off the school year in September with, having our goal set for the year. It very well could be the continuation of these. Certainly, we could change the date, and those are going to be the goals for this upcoming year. Or we could get rid of them all and start over. I mean, we just wanted you to review them.
And for number 3, the school board representative, we're trying to work on a process, and I don't know if you've shared this already, Sue, as far as like trying to work on a process where we have a senior and a junior, and having it so that the senior can always train the junior, just kind of so it's a rotating thing, kind of that the people get older, they can kind of graduate into the next step. But yeah, Sue's done a lot of research and has looked at, we've had discussions with that group and made a lot of good progress. And so we do have 2 juniors. Right, identified for next year.
And those students come out of student council, so the process has been that they're with their student council member, and then they're nominated from their group within, and then move forward from there. There will be a new student council advisor. I don't know if that, because Ashley left. We are talking about maybe the possibility of taking this whole role on as the board, and not necessarily removing it from student council, but allowing anyone that would want to apply from within instead of it having to be just within student council.
Yeah.
But that would mean that probably this mentor person might also take on the role of like developing that, how we would do that as a board and just take it on ourselves. So that was just recent discussion, and I think we'll just kind of see how things progress. Training is, I hope that it works out that the kids can do it, because it looks really comprehensive, and maybe would help us with that idea of making that a more important position, and help us get more of their voice at this table, because that's certainly not, we haven't had a lot of that. So any other discussion on these goals, or?
Number 3, the 4th bullet point. Can we discuss a little bit more in depth on what we're thinking on that one?
Talking about,
I think this is just kind of
decision-making processes. I mean, that's what we're elected to do, right?
I think that depending on how you look at it, right, I think at least in our discussions where it's just like, not that they would make decisions that, just student level decisions, just get their input, those type of decisions, not like, oh, they're gonna be voting on.
yeah, I don't think legally they can even vote.
Right, yeah.
I think it would be more of a concerted effort by our part to try and
Well, and maybe
see
the
what they
wording,
think.
maybe the wording needs to change to get their input or feedback, and maybe take away the decision-making wording.
Changes it to include student representatives' feedback in decision-making?
Yeah.
Just add feedback in there, maybe?
Yeah, maybe that, we could work on that, so that's a good point, Eric. Because I don't think that's what we're looking for. I think we're looking for, like when facilities come up or budgeting comes up or whatever, that they feel free to say something. Because right now, once the meeting starts, they typically don't participate in giving feedback. But that's a good point.
I would say even if you just add that one word, it changes the whole.
Right.
And the training would be really important in that them knowing what's appropriate and not appropriate to,
Right.
like giving input, like,
Right.
Well, so-and-so is a horrible teacher and this is what we did today,
Right,
so.
constructive
Yeah.
feedback.
So they understand what their role really is, and the input that we're looking for.
Right.
I do think by having them also come from the student council, you've got Ben that does right now with the meetings with them, and I feel like that kind of, and because they're in the student council role, that they're more used to like how a meeting would work, so I think that too, if we open it up, that training is like extra, yes, extra, because, I mean, and I think it looked really detailed from what I saw, but like, just especially if we open it up, which I think is a great idea to open it up to anyone who wanted to apply, but I would say that, especially if someone doesn't know how a meeting kind of just goes.
Right. And the training looked like it was a lot about what a school board does, so that they know what they're, like, why they're here and what we do, instead of just reporting on snow days or whatever.
Maybe if whoever ends up watching the training, maybe that's something that we can set some, like a small, here's what you're gonna have to, here's the kind of things you're gonna have to learn if you apply for this position, just also might be for like the future of the program.
Well, I think,
Expectations,
and I think ultimately this is about developing a future leader.
For sure,
Yeah, it's not, it is our role in helping them be future leaders, and I'm giving them some skills for that.
And we also, we also talked about doing like this, a handbook type of thing.
Right, that's the first one there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, down the road. Yeah. There probably are schools that already, they did have, the metro schools had their own student rep training, a one-day training, but it was geographically invites, they didn't go out of state. And part of that was because they did some field trips within the city, and so they didn't, then to ask, other people to come in was difficult, but it would be nice to have something local reps so they could network together. MSBA does offer a little bit of that. I think they're heading more in that direction for the January. So they might have an opportunity to go then as well, like for one day or something. I don't think it's just us that are looking at that kind of role as like preparing kids for a future leader role.
I think the point of this was just to put this out in front of you, to reflect on it, and think about it. So is there a time frame that you would like us to adopt or vote on our next year?
Well, we could do that in September.
I think September's fine.
And I know we discussed this before, but I still don't see how number one, how that's achievable. I mean, what are the planning? What's the expectation here?
Well, we just got done meeting that our committee that does public engagement, and we talked about our purpose and some of the things that we would have in our action plan. One is brainstorming, research group, like how can we survey or do focus groups or just kind of get the pulse of the community. We talked about creating a legislative platform when we get to the legislative point. We have MSBAs and MRAs and those kinds of things, but some districts have their own that's kind of specific to their district that they can share out with their constituents. That was something that we had as a goal. We had communications, public relations, and marketing. A lot of that stuff comes out of the superintendent's office on behalf of the board, but we are trying to figure out, are there some areas that we're missing for any stakeholder group. Reputation management is something we talked about. Internal, public, in terms of our own team members, like what are some things that we can do in terms of staff satisfaction, I guess, in terms of how they feel about their job, and then how does that connect with how do they talk about us in the community? Because certainly that's a very meaningful thing of how our own employees talk about us in the community. You know, we're always talking about helping the public understand what the role of the school board is. And we, you know, there's certain things we do every year, but I don't know that that necessarily makes a difference or not. And then, of course, when we start to get to any kind of referendum communications, I think that would come out of that group as well.
I think that in response to number one, because of the public engagement community or committee and this goal, the newspaper article, the article in the card that went out, the information that was in the calendar that were specifically done to improve the community's understanding of what the board does. And I think that was clarified and done because of this goal. Now, whether anybody gets it or not, I don't know, but we made an effort to do it.
It's almost like we're begging for people to come here and voice some concerns and problems they have by saying that goal. I mean, we've done everything we could, the card, the calendar, the emails. If people still don't have concern and come, I mean, we should be happy.
Yeah, I am happy.
So, I don't know. It's like we're begging people, come on, come voice a problem. Come on, please.
I think that we're not trying to voice problems. Part of what we talk about in the meeting also is like what we're doing well, what, you know, the positive things, the career academies that are coming up, the showing that we're involved in what's going on in our school district. So I wouldn't say that it's like, hey, complain about us. And I think that by reaching out not during a meeting, doing the calendars, doing the, you know, the flyers and things like that, I think we're saying, hey, here's what's going on. Ben's part on the postcard that was about the budget. I mean, that let a lot of people know, like, here's what we're working with. I think that that was a very good way of doing that, and it went out in the mail, so a lot of people got it. You know, and the engagement type stuff that shows, hey, look, we're awesome. So, I mean, it's not just, hey, come complain, it's here's what's really great about our schools.
Can we change I mean, do you feel like we need to change the wording there? Or
just personally, I don't think that many people care what the board's role is. I think they more care about what the superintendent's role is and how he's communicating. I mean, that's how I feel, at least. He's the face of us. So.
It's a complex issue. I mean, I think it's always that balance of what all board members have in terms of what is their role and then what is the superintendent's role. And that, I think we have ongoing discussions on that all the time. Because it's like, if each of you know, if a board member gets too far in the weeds, like, you're not gonna like that and it's not gonna work well, right? But then it's like, well, what is our role and what is our role in communicating and representing our constituents? But I'm right with you, Eric, like, if we're not having packed boardrooms, you know, that means that people are pretty happy in some ways.
To me, it goes back to the governing. Like, we spent 3 years trying to figure out how to govern, right? And now we're kind of bored with that, it seems like. So now we want to go back to, let's get more hands-on and not govern so much. And I mean, the governing role or concept just seems to be working really well. I think that we should just keep going with it. And I guess that's how I feel.
I agree that the governing part is going really well, but I just don't read it the way you are, where I don't think it's saying, hey, come on in and start bitching about it, whatever. I don't read it that way at all. I see it more of a, you know, maybe if anything, growing the relationships with people. You know, I think it's important that they know what we do, and because a lot of people don't know that we govern the way we are.
Well, I just think that we've already communicated this out numerous times, and we
Yeah,
can't continue to just keep the verbal diarrhea of what the board does.
Do you think people hear something one time and that's all it is then?
I think if you send a little postcard, if that's what we do or whatever, you're gonna go to the post office and you're looking at that recycle bin right outside the PO boxes, and they're all in that recycle bin.
It's a good thing we do more than one thing to reach out to them then.
Right, but we've already communicated to them what the board's role is. I mean, we could communicate to the new families and the kindergarten families, because they haven't heard it yet, but everyone else has already heard this.
I think you gotta keep pushing it just so people understand, because I mean, I've been on the board for how many years, and I still talk to people that are like, oh, wow, that is a real, I mean, they really think of us as managers, and we're not, we're a governing board, and I explain that all the time, and people are really surprised at it, so.
It's just not the board. I think you gotta have the schools, because if we're going out for referendums or anything, you gotta be showcasing the kids. It's just not the boards, it's gotta be everyone involved in the district. It's not one group that we gotta start showcasing, and we gotta,
I think we've done a great job in the last, year or so with the showcases. I mean, in here at least, right? I think that's phenomenal.
Yeah.
For sure.
Absolutely. I mean, we're trying to hit everything. I mean, social media, we have a huge presence. We do newspaper articles, we do the mailers, we do the coffee and conversations. We have 2 of these meetings a month. We're creating videos all the time. We're doing so many things, but I think, like, you still hear, like, people say, well, I don't know what's going on with the school. And that's maybe just a frustrating thing, is like, we do so much, and, it is, do people care? And I think people ultimately care. I believe that. Schools are kind of the heartbeat of any community, but everyone's busy, and for the most part, I think people are pretty happy with how things are going, and they trust the board, and they trust what's happening here. I don't think there's a right or wrong answer, but I think just having ongoing conversations, if anything else, other than you being, a governing body, you're also, I think, ambassadors for the district. I mean, everybody knows that you're a school board member, whether you know they do or not.
I mean, honestly, if we're trying to get people involved and come to meetings and know what the heck a school board does, we stop with the YouTube and we go Facebook Live, because that'll get people here in 2 meetings. There'll be a packed room, and that's what we want. I mean, we want people to be informed. People are going to go to Facebook Live and watch it. They're not going to go to YouTube and watch it.
No, we need to stop with churches, need to stop YouTube, get people going here.
Yeah.
Getting back to number 3 for me anyway. Is this coming from the student council, that they wish to be more involved in, maybe student council presidents, or are we creating something that really isn't an issue? Are we looking for a problem that's not there? And are we, to create a handbook, send students to training, where's the cost covering? What are we doing here? What's that gonna cost?
Well, there'd be a fee for any training, and that would come out of our district staff development budget. Can't recall what it is.
I would imagine it would be minimal.
I don't know. I'm going to tell you my perspective. Now, it's my perspective that this is not coming from the student council. I think it's coming from some board members, maybe not all, feeling that we can do better with our student council representative. Because typically, and correct me if I'm wrong, but generally speaking, they'll come and give a report on, you know, homecoming or what have you. Give you an update on what's happening at the high school. And the thought was, could we make that more of a robust, kind of a more important role, or other than just coming to give us a report on what's happening at the high school? And even though they're not a voting member, how can you make it, I don't know, a bigger deal, I guess?
Well, I know we have asked, I mean, back a few years, I forget who the student council rep was, but we had asked input a handful of times.
When Lacey was?
When Lacey was.
Yeah, I
really
know
good.
Lacey, but then there was another boy that was after Lacey, I can't remember.
Dylan?
Yeah, maybe it was
Oh,
Dylan.
yeah.
But we had gotten a lot more input from them and asked them for more input at times throughout the course of a meeting. It wasn't every meeting, but that was good, I thought. And I thought Winnie did a great job this year.
One of the things that I've observed is that they'll do their report and then they sit there and do their homework while they just sit through the rest of the meeting with no, it's like, well, what is the point of that? Yeah.
Well, we got homework to do.
Well, I understand that, but I mean, that doesn't seem like a good use of any kind of leadership development.
No. There is an opportunity there to do that.
Right, and maybe this is me and none of the rest of you, because I just think it's a great opportunity to do some leadership development, and I always go to those sessions and during the MSBA workshop, and those kids talk about the things that's taking them into the future. And if you just give a report on homecoming and do your homework, you're not gonna take anything into the future.
I 100% agree with what you're.
But those kids are doing that not because they're on student council, they're doing that because they're being championed by teachers and advisors and everybody that
Although
were in the buildings.
although they're
not
in student council, they still have to apply. Like, they still have to apply.
Is there
as
a
kid.
way that we can, ahead of time, we know there's certain things coming on the agenda, can Ben work with that student council rep, say, okay, they're gonna be talking about facilities. What are things that you kids would like to see happen at the high school, so that, they're kind of getting groomed prior to the meeting, so then they'll feel more comfortable talking about it once they get here.
Or if they have that
A
mentor.
mentor would help.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, a mentor would help with that. So that they have some input ahead of time.
I feel like other schools are starting to want to develop their kids in the same manner. And I think it's a great opportunity for any kid. And it would be nice to have the kids look at that position and want to shoot for that as, as a sophomore or freshman. I just think it's a great leadership
Well, and maybe that
opportunity.
gets, if you're gonna open it up to all students, maybe that gets incorporated into career academies and a specific one, and kids.
Communications or whatever.
Yeah. It would be like a little internship.
Yeah, kind of wondered that. I bet that could go under one of those
Yeah, I bet it could.
experiences or
Yeah.
something, maybe.
Because there'd be work involved for them,
Mhm.
so it's not like a, and now, Sue and I interviewed Winnie, and a lot of times she would come and just not really understand the details of the agenda. It's like, well, what fun is that? Just
Right.
make it interesting for them so they can come here and maybe learn something about government and,
Well, and what they learn here, they'll take other places, so.
yeah, absolutely.
You also gotta realize it's a short turnaround. By the time we get the agenda, to actually sit down and meet with them.
Well, I won't put that kind of pressure on them. I mean, if we're gonna try and help facilitate them to be good board members, then there would be a mentor that will be their connection, but it's gonna be their responsibility to review things and ask questions as
Just like I
appropriate.
asked.
I certainly will work with any board goals that you have, and I will work at the will of the board. For me, for this one here, is it mostly kind of comes to this is that in everything we do, we try and utilize best practices and do the best that we can at it. That, when we're talking about the board, I think the question is, can we do better with that role? And I think there was some feelings that we certainly could. And we, it definitely isn't best practices of a student board member to just come and give a report on what's happening in student council, which generally is going to be like the dress-up days for the week and homecoming, and we got what team went to the state tournament. It's more than that. So that's where we thought, well, if we're going to do it, let's try and do it right versus, I don't know.
I think that number 4 bullet point language needs to be completely taken out of there.
As opposed to just changing it.
Yep.
Is there a way that we could reach out to some districts that are currently doing this and see how they've actually went about this? And what parameters they had set?
I think there definitely can be more look into what other districts are doing as well. Yeah.
I think getting some feedback and seeing some
I do.
concrete, I think that would be helpful to picture in your mind a little bit better.
The part of number 4 that says, considering the input when making when making
that
decisions
naturally.
that affect the students. I mean, I think that would, well, this is, obviously we're considering the students when we make the decisions that affect the students, but having specific input, I mean, that's not a terrible thing.
And what if their input is something you don't agree on?
Well, that's why they're not, voting, it's their input. It's their opinion, it's.
We have board members that have different opinions.
We are.
We are elected.
Well, they are.
Well, they apply. And it's
I
the
know what
same.
I mean.
Well, I understand, but they're going through.
It's
the
language
same-
that could come back to bite, make people look bad
By listening to what they have to say.
by listening and not agreeing and voting maybe the way
Voting
the vast
against what the kid just said.
majority doesn't want you to vote
Because
on.
we're supposed to be for the kids, and all of a sudden we vote against the kids.
Well, for the school district, but yeah.
Well, how about if we, why don't you send me like some, and just email me some, take out number 4, reword number 4, take out the whole goal, whatever, and then I'll just work with it and we'll revisit this.
Yeah, I like the concept.
Maybe
Some
it
better
just,
models,
it needs
some
to-
models to look at,
well,
This
isn't, it doesn't have to be rocket science. We just want to improve their involvement and help them be more. Winnie just said, most of the time I didn't have any idea what was going on. That's exactly what she told us. It's like, well, if we could have someone finish next year saying, golly, I understood a lot more about budget, or I understood, a lot more about how the voting works, or what the chair does, or what the clerk does, then we're ahead of the game. That's all. I think it's just improving.
I'm on board with that goal, except the language under number 4, or bullet 4.
And I absolutely have no problem just taking that completely out as well. Or just doing something about student voice, listening to student voice. Because Ben has talked a lot about that, is schools are changing to increase student voice.
Well, we want to know what the kids think, right? They're the ones that are going to school and living it every day. And, we might have our heads in the clouds and, not really know exactly what's going on.
Okay, just,
Okay, so we want to talk about the role of the board. We've talked about this over the past 3 years, that the role of the board is at 30,000 feet. It's not at ground level. And so when I can also go back to number 1, and I can see how that language, a new board member that may think, well, I need to listen to I need to be involved in every single issue out in the community because that's what I've been elected for. And you and I have been on this board for a long time, and we've seen how board members get themselves into problems. I'm not talking about you.
And burnout.
We're a little bit
Previous.
talking about me, and that's
No,
okay.
we're not. No, I'm not. I'm talking about some other board members that are no longer here. And I think we finally have gotten away from that when you look at our boards that we had 15 years ago, and where the superintendent's position really didn't matter because it was the board that was running the show.
Well,
Because they
there
were
used to
too
be a
involved
school
in the
representative. Didn't you guys always represent a school too?
Yep,
Go to the high
Went to the
school
staff
and listen to the
meetings.
staff.
Exactly.
we went to staff meetings.
And so
Totally remove themselves from that situation.
the idea is good, but we have to be careful on how it's implemented. I mean, I know it's just goals,
That was
and
probably
it's
like when
not.
we first got here.
I guess when I look at it, I'm seeing it more as being engaged with the community, and our school is a lot of our community, so not necessarily, I'm not trying to listen to your everyday complaints, but if you have a complaint, I'd be happy to say, well, here's, who you can message about that, or here's who you can talk to about that. That's not really my role, and that right there also is sharing what is and isn't our roles. I've never had anyone in any volunteer role, much less here, go like, please don't help, please don't come participate, it's, people like to have people there.
But I 100% wasn't talking about you.
I
But I can give you names of what I was.
No, that's fine. I'm just saying, I understand where you're coming from. I don't want to be at a staff meeting ever. I mean, I'm not staff, that's not what we do. Sorry to.
Yeah, well, and I understand and actually really appreciate you, having some pushback, because I think diverse thinking on a board is a good thing, right? Because you're exactly right. We do not want to go back to what you just explained, because that is absolutely the opposite of best practices in schools, right? And I think let's just acknowledge, and I will shout to the mountaintops, is that this board is a very high functioning board. And you are utilizing best practices, and things have been going really well. So, we don't want to go backwards, but we want to continually improve what we do. And, what is that sweet spot? I guess is what we're looking at, is where the board is ambassadors and engaged, but you're not down, in a place where you don't want to be.
I think we are in the sweet spot. I think it's the sweetest it's been for years.
Well, I come to the board also not living through that and understanding that we're a governing board, so I don't have the PTSD of being in staff meetings or whatever, right?
Exactly what it is.
Like I don't have that, so I'm looking at it as like.
That's a good.
Yeah, that is when the rooms were packed with people
Right.
that were not happy.
And my idea of a public engagement, just so that
And
we.
meetings lasting until.
And then we had to go to
Our-
11 o'clock.
Yeah.
I also,
Then we had to go to
I have
grocery
one
stores
last
and that.
comment on number 1, and then I think we should move on. I think
Yes.
everyone's had a chance to whatever, and you're all welcome to email and put some feedback to me, and I'll put it in here before we go any further with this. But I also think the ambassador engagement that you do outside of a referendum, whether it be money or buildings, will make people go like, oh, they only are around when they want to raise their taxes. So now they're coming to every meeting in the world because they want to raise their taxes. If there are other ways to build relationships in the community as a board member outside of that, it will help that. And I'm all about that. So please give all that, just kind of your opinion in a nutshell, and send it to me, and then I'll throw it in here so then we can look at it further for adopting them. All right, now the action part of our meeting, we need to go on to number 11, the second reading of policy. We talked about these last time. Is there a motion to approve policy as presented? Motion made by Eric Mings. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Melissa. Is there any discussion on these? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. There are no additions to the agenda. Our future meetings are listed there for August, and policy will be the second one. Is there finance on?
I think that this month was supposed to be finance, but we didn't have much to put on there, so we did the public engagement.
Okay, so it will be policy then. Okay. So I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion made by Don, second by Sue.
Second.
We are, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned.
I think we're all right.
I knew things were